The cameras were rolling, the lights blinding. And in the heart of Times Square, inside ABC's glittering Good Morning America studio, something unforgettable was about to unfold. That morning would go down as the day Denzel Washington, one of Hollywood's most revered figures, walked off live television after an exchange so tense, so cutting, that producers later described it as the longest 30 seconds in broadcast history. It was supposed to be a light, friendly segment, a promotion for Denzel's new film about mentorship, legacy, and discipline in the entertainment industry. But instead, America witnessed something very different. A generational collision between Hollywood royalty and talk show immaturity. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because what Denzel said next will go down in talk show history as one of the most powerful live TV moments ever. It started innocently enough. The Good Morning America set gleamed in its usual sunshine tones. Michael Strahan, charismatic, playful, and sometimes a little too casual, leaned into his chair, flashing his trademark grin. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got the man himself here, Academy Award winner, living legend, the one and only Denzel Washington. Applause thundered through the studio. Denzel smiled, that composed, magnetic smile that carried the weight of decades. He wore a simple charcoal suit, clean, sharp, timeless, a walking statement of discipline in class. Strahan leaned forward with a mischievous tone. So, Denzel, man, you've been at this game for a long time. How do you keep yourself from going stale? The crowd chuckled, but Denzel didn't. He blinked, calm but unreadable. Stale? He repeated, voice smooth as velvet but twice as dangerous. Son, I don't bake bread. I build legacy. The audience exploded. Cheers. Applause. Laughter mixed with awe. Even Strahan looked caught off guard. Oh, come on, I'm just teasing, he said, trying to laugh it off. But Denzel wasn't done. Strahan chuckled nervously. I mean, you've done everything, right? Oscars, blockbusters, you name it. Isn't there a part of you that thinks maybe it's time to, chill? Let the young blood shine a little? That's when the air changed. The audience went still. Denzel leaned back slowly, eyes steady as if sizing up an opponent he didn't want to humiliate, but might have to. Michael, he said finally, I've spent 40 years watching young men mistake attention for achievement. They want the light, not the work. And then they call legends like me old because they can't catch up. The crowd gasped. It wasn't anger. It was truth delivered like poetry. Strahan tried to pivot. I mean, sure, but I'm talking about keeping up with the times. Social media, TikTok. Denzel cut in sharply. Son, I was trending before hashtags were born. The crowd roared. But Strahan, maybe stung, doubled down. Hey, I'm just saying. Times change, Denzel. Even you gotta admit, young audiences want something fresh. Denzel leaned forward, his voice dropping low. Fresh isn't the same as wise. And there's nothing new about ignorance. The audience erupted. Gasps. Cheers. Some even stood. The energy in the studio turned electric. Strahan blinked rapidly, that smile starting to look more like a mask. Inside the control booth, producers were whispering frantically. Do we cut to commercial? No, this is viral gold. Keep it rolling. Are we sure he's not going to walk? On the main floor, the tension was a living thing. Even the studio band had gone silent. Strahan, still forcing a grin, tried again. Okay, fair enough. But, Denzel, you gotta admit, sometimes you sound like my granddad, always talking about good old days. The room went dead quiet. You could hear someone's bracelet clink in the third row. Denzel tilted his head slightly. Granddad. Huh? Let me tell you something, son. If your grandfather taught you respect, you should have listened better. The crowd lost it. Applause. Whistles. Cheers. Even the cameramen were smiling. Strahan's grin faltered. I didn't mean it like that. Denzel leaned in, voice as calm as thunder before a storm. Then choose your words better. Because disrespect doesn't always sound loud. Sometimes it's disguised as charm. By now, the internet was already lighting up. Clips of the exchange were hitting social feeds in real time. Hashtags like hashtag Denzel versus Strahan and hashtag Respect the Legend were crawling up Twitter's trending bar. Strahan, perhaps realizing he'd lost the audience, tried to steer the segment toward humor. Man, you're intense this morning. Don't tell me you woke up ready for battle. Denzel smiled faintly. No, Michael, I woke up ready to teach. And with that, he shifted the energy entirely. See, young man, there's a difference between being playful and being careless. When you're sitting across from someone who spent their life mastering their craft, you don't poke for laughs, you ask for lessons. The crowd applauded again, this time longer, louder, like a congregation caught in a sermon. Strahan nodded awkwardly. All right, I'll take that. Lesson learned. But the segment wasn't over. And Denzel wasn't done. Strahan picked up his cue card, eyes scanning it for a lifeline. So, Denzel, in your new film you play a mentor to a young actor who's, let's say, a bit reckless. Did that remind you of anyone? Denzel didn't even blink. Yes, you. The room exploded. Half the audience laughed, half gasped, everyone leaned forward. Denzel continued, still calm, still measured. You remind me of every young man who thinks charisma replaces character. You've got charm, but you're missing foundation. You can host a show, but can you hold the room? Even Strahan was speechless. He looked at the crew for rescue, but none came. They were too stunned to intervene. Then Denzel stood, slowly, deliberately. He adjusted his jacket, looked directly into the camera, and said, America, this is what happens when respect becomes optional. I came here to promote a story about discipline, and instead, I had to live it. The audience rose in thunderous applause. Producers scrambled to fade to commercial, but it was too late. The moment had already been burned into television history. As the cameras cut, Denzel shook hands with a few audience members, nodded politely, and walked straight out of the studio. No yelling, no chaos, just poise, the kind of silence that speaks louder than 1,000 interviews. Strahan sat there frozen, lips parted, cue card trembling in his hand. His co-host looked everywhere but at him. The broadcast returned from commercial break with awkward laughter and a weather report that nobody heard. But the damage was done. Within 30 minutes, Good Morning America's YouTube channel was flooded with comments. Denzel just taught an entire generation what class looks like. Strahan tried to be cute. Denzel turned it into a sermon. That's how you walk off with dignity. And the biggest one of all, hashtag Respect the Legend, trending #1 in the world by noon. But the story didn't end there. What Denzel said after walking off, and how the entertainment world reacted, would turn this confrontation into one of the most defining television moments of the decade. The moment Denzel stepped out of the studio doors, the control room imploded, phones buzzed, producers shouted, and $100 million in brand image hung by a thread. Clips of the confrontation flooded every feed within minutes. Hashtag Respect the Legend, hashtag Denzel Washington, and hashtag Strahan Disrespect were already in Twitter's top 5. ABC's public relations hotline lit up like Christmas. Was it scripted? Reporters asked. Is Denzel coming back? Sponsors demanded. Inside the Good Morning America offices, executives paced a hallway muttering the same 3 words. We're in trouble. By 9 a.m., comment sections became courts of opinion. He didn't walk off, he walked over them. That's not arrogance, that's integrity. Michael Strahan forgot he was talking to Denzel Washington, not a rookie influencer. Clips hit YouTube reaction channels. Podcasts dissected every line. One TikTok caption read, "When calm becomes the loudest weapon." By lunchtime, 30 million views. Inside ABC's boardroom, the air was thick with panic. Do we apologize publicly? Do we call his agent? What if he refuses to come back? One producer slammed her notepad down. We disrespected a man whose entire brand is respect. A hush followed. It was the first honest sentence anyone had spoken all morning. They finally drafted a statement. Good Morning America values open conversation and regrets that yesterday's segment caused offense to one of our nation's most respected artists. But they knew the internet would smell the corporate varnish from a mile away. That evening, while ABC debated spin strategies, Denzel posted one short message on X, formerly Twitter. Some rooms teach you who deserve silence. 10 words. 5 million likes in a day. Every entertainment outlet framed it in gold letters. CNN's banner read, Denzel Washington speaks without speaking. Hollywood stopped scrolling. Morning show panels flared up across the country. Pundits called it the GMA incident. One commentator on The View said, that wasn't anger. That was discipline in real time. Another shot back. Or maybe Strahan just asked what younger viewers were thinking. The debate exploded. Generational respect versus media entitlement. Every headline became a question mark. Every talk show turned into a tribunal. By afternoon, Hollywood heavyweights lined up behind Denzel. Viola Davis tweeted, some men carry decades of dignity. Handle with care. Morgan Freeman posted, there are actors, and then there's Denzel. Even Tom Hanks added, legends don't need applause. They earn it every day. Hashtags morph into movements. Hashtag learn from Denzel. Hashtag respect elders in Hollywood. Hashtag class over clout. Back at ABC, Michael Strahan's PR team was bleeding. His inbox overflowed with hate mail. His sponsors demanded clarity. One manager suggested, lay low for a week. Another said, no, go on camera and own it. Strahan chose the middle road. He opened Wednesday's show with a forced smile and a prepared statement. I want to say I have the highest respect for Mr. Washington. Sometimes live TV goes in unexpected directions. We move forward with respect and love. The applause was thin. Viewers weren't buying it. A comment under the YouTube clip summed it up. That's not an apology. That's a weather report. Talk show hosts everywhere tightened their scripts. Writers revised segments overnight. The memo from ABC Legal leaked. Effective immediately, no age-based jokes about guests. Other networks mocked the scandal in private, but took notes in public. Comedian Bill Maher remarked on air, Denzel didn't get canceled. He canceled carelessness. The audience cheered. For the first time, the word respect was profitable again. Friends close to the actor told Vanity Fair he wasn't angry. He was reflective. He did what he's done his whole career. One associate said. He held the mirror up to us and didn't blink. Denzel spent the week at a youth mentorship program in South LA. Photos surfaced of him smiling with students, captioned, teaching respect the old-fashioned way. Those images went just as viral as the walk-off clip. The narrative shifted from anger to education. Friday morning, ABC executives sent a formal letter to Denzel's representatives apologizing for the incident and requesting a private conversation. The reply arrived 3 hours later. Short, elegant, devastating. Mr. Washington does not do private apologies for public disrespect. That line alone hit 1 million retweets. CNN called it a masterclass in graceful rejection. ABC's ratings plummeted for the next week. Denzel's new film sales skyrocketed. The lesson was visible in every chart. Dignity trends harder than damage control. Late Sunday night, Strahan picked up his phone and did what he should have done day one. He called Denzel directly. Sir, I'm sorry, he said. This wasn't about ratings. It was me being thoughtless. There was a pause. Then Denzel's voice, low, unforgiving, but measured. Respect is cheap until you earn it twice. Do better next time. Click. Strahan sat in silence, knowing that sentence would haunt him and teach him forever. But the story wasn't finished, because 1 month later, Hollywood would witness the most unexpected reunion in television history. When Denzel returned to the same stage, he had walked out on, not to fight, but to forgive in a way that stunned the world. 30 days. That's how long Denzel Washington stayed silent. No interviews. No press statements. No appearances. Just absence. And in that absence, the world filled the void with reverence. Clips of his walk-off were still looping on every social feed. Reaction videos had turned the moment into a digital parable about discipline. Media analysts were calling it the silence that screamed. Meanwhile, Good Morning America was bleeding viewership. Fans said the show felt hollow, as if the lights were on but the soul had left. Sponsors demanded fresh headlines to heal the wound. Then someone at ABC floated an impossible idea. What if we invite him back? The room froze. Another voice whispered, "He'll never say yes." But they sent the invitation anyway, and to everyone's shock, Denzel didn't say no. For 2 weeks, quiet talks unfolded between Denzel's agent and ABC executives. His single condition: no jokes, no interruptions. One conversation, live and unfiltered. Producers agreed instantly. They knew the entire country would tune in, not to see drama, but redemption. Inside the network's newsroom, staff whispered the new nickname, the Day of Respect. Even rival networks cleared their morning schedules. Nobody wanted to compete with what was about to happen. February 5th, 7:58 a.m. The studio glowed softer than usual. No neon colors, no upbeat theme music, just warm amber light. Michael Strahan stood backstage, cue cards trembling. He had rewritten his intro 100 times. Producers counted down. 3, 2, 1. The red light blinked on. Millions watched. "Good morning, America," Strahan said quietly. "Today we welcome back a man whose career and character have inspired the world for decades, Mr. Denzel Washington." The crowd erupted. Applause so loud the microphones peaked. When Denzel walked in, the audience rose to its feet instinctively. He shook Strahan's hand. Firm, measured, no smile, but no resentment either, just control. Strahan took a deep breath. "Mr. Washington," he began, "the last time you were here, things got heated. I said things I shouldn't have. I want to apologize on air, not as a host, but as a man." The crowd went silent. Denzel nodded once. Apology accepted. But let's understand something. Accountability is a verb. You show it, not say it. Soft murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. He continued, voice steady. "This ain't about me or you, Michael. It's about how we treat each other when the cameras aren't rolling." Strahan nodded again, eyes glassy. "You taught me that. I won't forget it." Denzel turned toward the audience like a professor addressing a class. "People keep asking why I walked out. Truth is, I didn't walk away from anything. I walked toward principle. We live in a time where humility is confused with weakness and arrogance is disguised as confidence. If you don't draw the line, someone will draw it for you." Applause erupted. Even the crew was clapping. Then he looked back at Strahan. "Michael, every man gets 2 chances in life. One to speak and one to listen. You used both today. That's growth." The audience stood again, chanting his name. As the show cut to a commercial break, a camera kept rolling accidentally for a few seconds. Denzel and Strahan were still mic'd. Strahan whispered, "You really forgive me?" Denzel smiled for the first time. "Son, I forgave you the moment you stopped performing." That unplanned clip leaked online within an hour and became the most shared video of a year. Every comment said the same thing. That's not Hollywood. That's human. Talk shows around the world replayed the episode. CNN headlined, "Denzel turns conflict into class." The BBC called it Redemption Live. Actors from every generation joined the conversation. Zendaya tweeted, "That's how you handle disrespect, with grace and gravity." Morgan Freeman added, "The young watched a master teach without a script." For once, social media wasn't mocking, it was learning. ABC executives saw the numbers. Ratings spiked higher than the Super Bowl pre-show. Advertisers rushed back. But this time, the network did something different. They announced a new initiative. The Denzel Standard, a network-wide program promoting respectful dialogue on air and off. Other studios followed suit. Within a month, every major morning show had added training on guest respect protocols. Denzel didn't just fix a moment. He reset a culture. Later that week, Denzel invited Strahan to visit one of his mentorship programs in Compton. Cameras captured them speaking to teenagers about discipline and humility. Strahan told the students, "You can lose fame and still find respect again if you admit you were wrong." Denzel added, And if you listen long enough to someone wiser than you, the clip played on news stations worldwide. Even critics who'd once mocked the incident called it the most important conversation in American television this decade. When the week ended, a magazine cover featured both men side by side. Respect Rewritten, Denzel and Michael, the interview that healed a nation. In a final interview with Entertainment Weekly, Denzel was asked why he agreed to return. He smiled and said, "Because the lesson wasn't done yet. Anyone can walk away angry. Not everyone can walk back with grace." That line became the soundbite of the year, engraved on memes, shirts, and motivational posters around the world. But the final chapter was still to come. The night Denzel stood on the world's biggest stage and turned a morning show meltdown into a message for generations. 3 months after that unforgettable return to Good Morning America, the nation was once again watching Denzel Washington. But this time from a different stage. The venue, the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. The event, a national tribute honoring Denzel for his lifetime of excellence and moral leadership in American cinema. Every seat was taken. Politicians, actors, musicians, the entire industry gathered under one roof. And sitting in the front row, quietly nervous but deeply moved, was Michael Strahan. When the curtain rose, the crowd stood as Denzel walked the podium. No intro music, just silence and anticipation. He took a breath and looked out at the room. "I've spent a long time in front of cameras," he began. "But the greatest role you'll ever play is the one off screen. The one where no one's clapping, no one's watching, and your character is the only audience." The crowd was spellbound. A while back, I sat in a studio where respect was tested live. People called it a clash. I call it a conversation that finally made us listen. Cameras panned to Strahan, eyes wet with gratitude. See, the lesson was never about who was right. It was about what's right. And what's right is simple. Treat every person like their story matters. Because it does. Applause echoed like thunder against the gilded walls. As the cheers settled, Denzel paused and looked toward the front row. "Michael Strahan," he said, voice steady. "Come up here." The room gasped. Strahan rose, visibly shaken. He walked to the stage as the audience held its breath. Denzel extended his hand. The two men embraced under the spotlight that had once divided them. "This man," Denzel said, "taught the world that mistakes don't end you. They rebuild you, if you face them with truth." The crowd erupted again, a roar of forgiveness and finality. For the first time in decades, a Hollywood story ended not with scandal, but with grace. The next morning, headlines read, "Denzel and Strahan rewrite respect at the Kennedy Center." From clash to class, America applauds. Clips of the hug broke records on social media. CNN called it a national lesson on humility. The BBC said, "In a world that feeds on conflict, two men fed us closure." Teachers played the moment in classrooms. Corporations use it in leadership training. Even political debates cited it as a model of reconciliation. Within weeks, the phrase, "pull a Denzel," entered the lexicon, meaning to handle chaos with calm, power, and purpose. Late-night hosts stopped opening their shows with mockery. Morning anchors rehearsed their questions with fresh respect. ABC announced a new annual segment called The Denzel Moment, honoring guests who used their platform to elevate dialogue instead of destroy it. And Michael Strahan, he became one of its first hosts. Weeks later, a journalist asked Denzel if he ever regretted walking out that day. He smiled. "No. Sometimes you have to leave the room to make the room better." The reporter asked what he thought of Strahan now. "He's proof that grace works both ways. You teach it, then you receive it." The quote went viral again, the third time his words had taken over the internet in less than a year. A month later, a teen podcaster from Atlanta summed it up best. Denzel didn't cancel Michael. He converted him. Clip moments from the interview played at youth conferences, church events, and leadership seminars. Students quoted his lines in graduation speeches. Parents shared them at family tables. Respect had become trendy again. Months later, at the Oscars, Denzel was invited to present the final award of the night. Before announcing the winner, he took a moment to speak. "We chase fame like it's oxygen, but what Good as breathing if you've lost your character. When I walked out of that show, people thought I was angry. I wasn't. I was awake. I learned that if you stay silent in a room of noise, eventually the noise starts to listen. The audience rose to its feet. Every word felt like scripture. He closed with his trademark smile. Respect isn't old-fashioned. It's timeless. And tonight, we just proved it still sells out the house. Cue standing ovation. Cue the fade out. When a legend taught a host respect, the world paused long enough to hear what dignity sounds like. It didn't trend because it was angry. It trended because it was true. And in an industry built on noise, Denzel Washington reminded us that silence, when earned, is louder than applause. Respect, the only legacy that never ages.